I work for a nonprofit organization and my employer offers 401A, 403B, and 457B. Will I be able to make max contributions for all of them, which are 58,000 for 401A, 19,500 for 403B, and 19,500 for 457B? Or is there a max contribution limit that should not exceed a particular amount across all of these accounts?
All right. So this is a common setup for academic docs. You get a 401A, you get a 403B, and you get a 457B. This is what they have up at the University of Utah, close to me, and I'm sure at many places all over the country. So let's talk about each of these three accounts. A 403B is most easily thought of as a 401k. There's a few minor differences. Particularly with the catch-up contributions, it can be a little bit different that way, but I'm not going to get into that today. Think of that as your 401k. Okay. Your 403B, however, and your 401A share the same limit. That's a limit they call the 415C limit. In 2021, it's 58,000. It's probably going to be about 61,000 for 2022. So they share the same limit. So you can't put $58,000 into both of them. And when you have this set up, the way it typically works is you can put money into 403B. Maybe the employer puts a little match in there. So you can put your 19,500 if you're under 50 in 2021 in there. And maybe the employer gives you another $5,000 or $10,000. Okay, so that's about $30,000 you've used up. And then the employer oftentimes will allow you to have money put in the 401A instead, and that might be another $20,000 or $25,000 or something like that. Now, the 401A contribution is typically not negotiable. It's basically going in there. They're telling you, we're going to put in this much of your pay into the 401A every year, and maybe it's 10%. So if they're counting your pay as $290,000, they'll put $29,000 in there, and then they allow you to put, your $20,000 into your 403B, and they give you a little match on top of it, and that gets you somewhere close to $58,000. Maybe you're in the 40,000s, 50,000, somewhere in there, but it should be less than $58,000 if you're under 50. Okay. The 457B limit's totally separate. Remember, those other accounts are your money. A 457B is your employer's money. It's deferred compensation. It's money that's coming to you that they haven't paid you yet. That's really good for asset protection from your creditors. It's really bad for asset protection from their creditors. So before you use a 457B, you want to make sure that you're not likely to have your employer go under. Now, that's usually not the case if you're at a big state academic institution, but keep that in mind. If it's got reasonable fees, reasonable investment options, and most importantly, reasonable distribution options, not just one big lump sum in the year you leave the employer, then go ahead and use the 457B as well. The limit on that, $19,500, okay, for 2021. That should be $20,500 for 2022. And that's basically the way it works. But that's a totally separate limit from the 58,000 limit for your 401A, 403B. So if you look at it all together, chances are you're going to be able to get something close to $75,000, $78,000 into these three accounts. Anything above and beyond that, you'll need to invest into a personal or spousal backdoor Roth IRA and or a taxable account and or an HSA, or if you got a side gig somewhere else that you're getting 1099 income, you can open an individual 401k. But that's about it. It's a pretty common setup. Get the plan documents, read them, understand how they work. Make sure you get your entire match, if any, and make sure you've got the investments set up the way you want them to be. Hope that's helpful. If you want your questions answered by the White Coat Investor, record your question at whitecoatinvestor.com/YQA or click the link in the description.
My dad, your host, Dr. Dahl, is a practicing emergency physician, blogger, author, and podcaster. He is not a licensed accountant, attorney, or financial advisor, so this podcast is for your entertainment and information only and should not be considered official, personalized financial advice.